we need to self-empower ourselves with dignity. I don't want anybody to feel sorry for us. We have so much to offer the world. And so in order to do that, we are looking to the skills that we have and are looking into how we can, at the same time, uplift ourselves. And that led to the creation of Alaffia Village or Alaffia Co-op, essentially to just make shea butter and sell in America, just as you mentioned, in a healthy manner for those that are in need, and then use the fund to invest back in the community.
Welcome to Business with Purpose. I'm your host, Molly Stillman of Still Being Molly, and this show is all about bringing you the stories behind the brands, the companies, and the small businesses that are changing the world. Each week, I get to sit down with an incredible entrepreneur, CEO, business person, community leader, nonprofit director, or just an awesome person who is trying to make a positive impact, not only through their personal life, but also with their career. My goal with this show is to show you, the listener, that wherever you are, you can make an impact with your life. Wherever you are. It doesn't matter if you're in corporate America, if you're an entrepreneur, a stay-at-home mom, whatever you do, you can make an impact. My guest this week is Olowo-n'djo Tchala. Olowo-n'djo was born and raised in the village of Kaboli, Togo, Africa, located in the central region near the border of Benin. Growing up, he shared an 8 by 10 foot room with his mother and 7 siblings. Olowo-n'djo's mother taught him the importance of kindness and generosity, and by the age of 5, Olowo-n'djo was working on the family farm to help support his family. After meeting his wife, Prairie Rose, who was serving in the Peace Corps at the time, he came to the United States and worked his way through school, eventually graduating from the University of California, Davis with a degree in organizational theory. Now, shortly before graduation, Olowo-n'djo and Rose felt they had the responsibility to fight the injustices that existed in West Africa. Enter Alaffia. Alaffia handcrafts award-winning clean and fair trade beauty and grooming care. The organization advances gender equality and alleviates poverty through the fair trade of indigenous African resources, such as unrefined shea butter, African black soap, coconut oil, and neem extract. I'm a huge fan of Alaffia. I tell my little testimony at the beginning of the conversation, but I was so excited to have Olowo-n'djo on the show to hear more of his story and to really learn the heart behind this incredible beauty brand. You are going to absolutely fall in love with Olowo-n'djo and his incredibly kind demeanor and sense of humor. We had the best conversation. But before I get to my conversation with Olowo-n'djo, I want to thank our partner of the show, and that is Mama Suds. Are you looking to clean up your household cleaning products this year? Mama Suds is here to help. Now, the best way is to simply start with one product. So every time you run out of a specific cleaning product, just replace it with a non-toxic one. Or another tip is to purchase a product that has multiple uses. The Mama Suds collection has so many multiple use products like their Castile soap, the toilet bombs, the multi-purpose cleaner, and their blog has a ton of great tips and Castile soap recipes that you can print and make a lot of your own effective cleaners. Give them a try at mamasuds.com. That's MAMASUDS.com. Don't forget to use the coupon code MOLLY for 15% off your order. Now, without further ado, on to my conversation with Olowo-n'djo Tchala. Olowo-n'djo, I'm so excited to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Molly. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. It is kind of crazy to think about. We are in 2022. I mean, I remember as a kid, like the year 2022 sounded so futuristic. Like I was certain by then there would be like flying cars and we would just be able to teleport places. I don't know.
Well, there are flying cars. I don't know if we can teleport each other yet.
Wait, there's flying cars?
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Well, I'm about to go down a whole Google rabbit hole when we get off of this.
No, let's not go there.
Yeah, we're not going to go there. Well, as I stated and shared with you before we started recording, I am such a huge fan of your brand Alaffia. And so I'm so excited to hear more of the story behind it. And I'm going to share my personal testimonial with the listeners before we even get into it. So y'all know how long I have loved Alaffia. So my son Amos, he's going to turn 6 in February. For those that have been around, y'all know my sweet Amos. He's just as the poor kid is never going to tan. Okay. Let's just be honest. He's got real fair skin and that fire engine red hair. And when he was little, he had horrible eczema. And we had tried everything. We'd gone to the allergist. We'd done all these different things. And he was so sensitive to everything we put on his skin. And I had tried, I had tried all the kind of conventional baby soaps and all the quote unquote conventional, like sensitive skin baby soaps that have so many harmful ingredients in them. And it would just continue to aggravate his skin. And somebody recommended Alaffia to me and said, my son had eczema. I used, their soaps and the kind of the baby wash and the body washes on him. And it really worked. So I tried it. And I tell you, I became a believer. Like I love that stuff. And it was as a mom to a little boy who was just constantly covered in them. It was so sad. My poor Amos just was so sad as a little baby with his eczema all over his body. And to find Alaffia and be able to use a product that I know was safe and also worked on him and smelled amazing. I mean, I started using it for myself, was just a lifesaver. So thank you for starting this company, because at the end of the day, you helped at least one person, but I know you helped way more people. So all that to say is I want you to give us the OlowoNdjo 101. So tell us who you are, what you do, and how you got to where you are today with Alaffia.
Well, thank you, Molly, and hopefully we'll get to meet your little one. Some is I for me, you said your brand, and I think it is our brand. I see Alaffia is all ours. All humans contribute, just like you contribute by buying Alaffia. So it's our brand. But for me personally, I think it's quite an honor, really, not only to be the co-founder of Alaffia, but to be the CEO of Alaffia. And I say it's an honor because I get to do in my whole adult life and still have some time left, something that I deeply and profoundly believe in, really deep in my heart and my soul. So it's quite an honor to be able to do that in your adult life. As you can tell, I grew up in Togo. Togo is a small country in the west part of Africa. And you grew up in the farm. You mentioned that you were in the farm. I grew up in the farm. My mother was an indentured servant in the neighboring country of Benin. Benin is right next to Togo. And came back to Togo from Benin and married my father and decided to have 8 of us. So I grew up in the farm. It's a loss of kid. But these have a tremendous amount of impact on me and what I end up spending the rest of my life doing. It's quite personal in the sense that, all of us do love our mothers, and I was quite close to my mother. And that led me to learn quite a bit from her. We had to sell things in the market. We're farmers, but we have to sell what we grow in farm in the market. And I have to tell you, sometimes people ask me today and say, what do you learn from the university, how to sell things? And I said, no, I learned that from home. I learned that in the market. And one of the things that we sold, aside from okra and beans and so on, was chewing sticks, right? And they do the antibacterial chewing stick. In fact, I didn't even use a toothbrush until I came to the US with all this stuff. We just use chewing stick. And believe it or not, I don't have any cavities.
I love it.
But in Togo, or at least in the villages in Kaboli where I grew up, boys don't sell things in the market. It's women that sell things in the market. But my mother want all of us to support each other because we had to. That was the only way to survive. And so she asked me to go sell things in the market, and then I'll be carrying these chewing sticks and go to the market. And the first day I didn't sell very much. So our market day is every 8 days. The next market came and I realized I gotta come up with a strategy here. So I started focusing on where there's a large group of elders, right? Older mothers that already have children. Then there's, wow, we've never seen a boy selling things before. We're gonna buy from you. So, and I ended up selling quite a bit and it felt so good to be able to help my mother. And it's almost like your market differentiation, right? With the group of you're selling to when we look at today. I'm sharing that because it's part of our life and understand the market, but most importantly, understand how to help. And I also recall this my mother was very big in sharing, right? It didn't matter if 8 children, and I have 2 brothers that are much bigger than me, which means we eat lots of food. We have to, she really was, she felt that the only way she survived being a dental servant is because others help her, because she didn't have parents.
Yeah.
She lost both. And often, my village is a border town to Benin, and most people will be going to go work in Nigeria. They have to go to Benin, and their truck will break down, and she'll share truly the little bit that we have with the strangers that we never met before. So bring to my adult life with all those fundamentals and understanding that we need to share, but also that is understanding what our communities have to offer, both good and bad. And I felt that as an adult, what I could do is not only that I need to contribute to the way I was contributing to my mother, but to a greater community around the world. And that led to the foundation of Alaffia, and that's where we are here today.
Wow. I love how you talked about the impact that your mom had on you. And as a mom myself, to 2 kids. And, sometimes we as moms, we struggle to know if we're doing the right thing and if our kids are paying attention, if they see, how hard we're working or the lessons we're trying to impart. And so I'm always encouraged by adults who share, here are the things that I saw my mom doing, and here's the impact that she had on me and what I'm doing today. And so that's just as a mom, it's so encouraging to hear that. So obviously growing up in a small village with 7 siblings in Togo, what led you to come to the States? What was the path that, you were selling things in the market, and then you came to the States. What brought you here?
Well, I wanted to add there, Molly, that so the 8 siblings, that's only from my mother's side. My father has 42 children.
Oh my goodness. Wait a second.
Yeah. Okay, let's not even talk about that, right?
Oh my heavens. Well, I bet those family reunions are off. What do the kids say these days? Do they still say off the chain? Is that what the kids say? I don't know. I'm not in on the lingo.
My daughters, I have to learn a whole new language when they have teenagers.
I know. I don't understand. My kids come up and they say things, and I go, "What? What does that mean?" I don't know what that means. I'm old now.
No, it's quite simple, really. Like all of us, at one point when we're youngsters, when you're young, you fall in love. Right? And I met Rose, who was a Peace Corps volunteer in my village. And Rose, my co-founder, she's in agriculture. She studied chemistry, and so she was going to be an advisor, because we're farmers, we're farming community.
Yeah.
But young, I'm like, well, no, we don't really need advice on how to farm. We have been farming for thousands of years, but it's good to have a nice, kind woman.
I know what you mean by that. I can read between the lines. A nice kind woman.
We're on the air, so I'm not.
Yeah, that's all right. We're friends here. I got you.
Anyhow, so Rose was in my village, and she came back. Rose from Eastern Washington. So Washington State, for those of you that don't know, it's kind of divided in 2. You have the eastern side, and then they have the western side. So she's from the eastern side, where it's primarily a farming community. And you end up finding a lot in common, believe it or not. There's extreme amount of poverty and difficulties in this country as well. So I found, that there a bit of similarity. The way in which I grew up and Rose grew up. But anyhow, when Rose finished her Peace Corps service in Togo, she came back home and wanted to go back to grad school. And being me, I seek great education. I'm a farmer, so why not? You gotta follow the one that touches your heart. And so I ended up in the States and going to community college, and I ended up transferring to the University of California, Davis, where I studied organizational theory. And there it goes. That's how I end up in the States. But, to me, I feel that it's really not end up in the States, end up in the States. Like I told you, I just got back from West Africa yesterday. For the past 18 years, every quarter except for last year that I didn't go every quarter. So I do feel that I live in both places.
I love that you have And that's something that I've kind of learned about you as as I was prepping for this podcast and all those kinds of things. And I love how you and your wife have really embraced West Africa and Washington as your homes, and you infuse a lot of those things into the business. Let's talk about Alaffia, because like I said at the beginning, I'm a huge fan of the company, and I love the meaning of the name Alaffia, which is this idea of this. It's a force of peace and health, and
Definitely.
That's just so beautiful. And so, where did growing up as a farmer in Togo and then coming to the States and starting a brand, and that makes essentially clean beauty products.
Definitely.
Like it's one of those things that sometimes people be like, well, how did you end up doing that? So what caused you to say, you know what, I think I want to start a beauty brand?
Clearly Alaffia is a brand, and a brand with great moral principles. But it to me represents more of a social movement, right? At the beginning, I wasn't really thinking that we were even starting a business or a brand.
Right.
The truth is, and the truth still remains today, I have very strong conviction of the way I was brought up and the need and the must to contribute not to my own family, but also the greater community. And when you have a strong philosophy, you need to pay for it. Mm-hmm. The social movement it cannot be free. Mm-hmm. So I needed something to pay for my philosophy or my heart for my people. And in order to do that, I had to sell something. But I wanted to sell something that is derived from my indigenous way of being. And also something that focuses on a woman, because back home it is our woman, just like my mother, that maintained the traditional knowledge that for centuries. But it also, to me, it needs to be something that is sustainable. So when I look all those aspects, I felt that having Alaffia with determinations to create peace and support our communities or the global communities, we needed to use ingredients that are really tied into our culture. Yeah. And I grew up with shea trees. Shea trees, we use shea trees. I can't tell you how much shea butter I have ate in my life. So we have, I see that here we are. We need to self-empower ourselves with dignity. I don't want anybody to feel sorry for us. We have so much to offer the world. And so in order to do that, I look into the skills that we have, and I look into how we can, at the same time, uplift ourselves. And that led to the creation of Alaffia Village or Alaffia Co-op, essentially to just make shea butter and sell in America, just as you mentioned, in a healthy manner for those that in need. And then use the fund to invest back in the community and invest back in my own family as well.
Yeah. I think it's, I love that you said the amount of shea butter that you ate as a child or shea. And I mean, how is it? Because I know that it can be used in so many different ways. I mean, it almost reminds me of us with okra. Like on our farm, we cannot eat enough okra to like, and okra is one of those vegetables that like you can check it in the morning and it's not ready. And then if you at dinner time, it's too big and you can't eat it. And it's just like, what? Anyway, so during the summertime, it's like, I feel like I'm constantly eating fried okra, roasted okra, whole okra, chopped okra and like gumbo and soup. And by the end of the summer, I'm like, I know it's delicious. But yeah, so it's kind of like that here. But, knowing that this was something that was, plentiful growing up, and obviously all of the different benefits of it for your health, for your skin. When did you start to think, okay, I think, this idea of a for-purpose business, I'm going to sell a product in America that then invests back into the communities. It becomes this symbiotic relationship. And you're taking these resources that are just plentiful and there's a bounty of them. When did you begin to see the seed of the business? And I love that you said it's kind of like our brand, it's our business, because you really built it on people and you care about people. How did that all kind of begin?
Again, it goes back to even before I even came back to US, right? Because before I came back to US, you have my mother and really pounded on us a sense of responsibility.
Yeah.
And also pounded on us a sense of home, that you can never forget your home.
Yeah.
So when I first came to US and I realized, oh, look, I can read, I can learn, I can do all these other stuff. I wanted to be a civil engineer because water is one of the major issues that we have back home. We have lots of plenty water underground, but we just don't have clean water. So what I'm trying to say is that there was a sense that somehow I need to contribute to my community. And I quickly realized that, okay, if I'm a civil engineer, somebody still need to pay for me to do what I need to do.
Yeah.
I needed money to I'd rather pay the engineers to do some things that I want to contribute back to my community. And so what I'm trying to say is that the idea and the duty and the responsibility was embedded in me before I even came to US. But I did not know that it will be specifically Shea Butter or Shea base that we're going to be using. So when I realized this back in 2003, that first of all, the concept and the principles of the organization is about self-sustaining, and self-sustaining meaning self-independent.
Yeah.
And so I did not want to have investors and have all these different things. So I had to look really closely, what is it that our community can offer the world?
Yeah.
And I think and when I look at everything that we have, well, not only what we can offer the world, we can offer the world lots of things, but what was attainable to me to do? And what was possible to do without extreme amount of capital? Because we use student loan to start, right?
Yeah.
We borrowed $1,000 from the bank. So you need to do something that's reasonable, but yet that embodies your principles. So I think, for me, it's really that personal responsibility that I need to do something back home and looking for ways to continue to tie home to the world.
Yeah. One of that kind of reminds me, one of the things that I know about you, in addition to obviously this tie between, your home in West Africa and the, obviously selling the product and making a difference here in the States as well, is how Alaffia has really gone above and beyond this idea of the quote unquote like fair trade model. And you are setting a standard for other companies to really go beyond fair trade and really begin to replicate that model in underserved communities in both West Africa and around the world. So tell us about that, because obviously I'm a huge advocate for fair trade.
Yes.
It was on a trip to Kenya in 2011, where I toured a fair trade factory in Nairobi. And that began my personal journey towards learning about fair trade and all those kinds of things. And I just realized how life-changing that was. So tell us about this idea of this beyond fair trade model that you hope to see replicated.
Thank you, Molly. Just like you said, the fair trade itself is very important, right? But to me, it's just a fundamental requirement.
Yeah.
That should just be a standard. Unfortunately,
Correct.
It's not. I mean, even the coffee, we still only have maybe 2% of coffee that's fair trade today.
Yep.
Textile, maybe only 5% that's fair trade. So we have a long way to go, but that should be a standard. And it's quite simple, really. It's really saying, pay people living wage so they can take care of themselves and work in a safe work environment. That's not really too much to ask, right? So to me, those should be the standard. Those should just be the way it is. But a true model, right, as we look at the community around the world, when I look at what really would give my community out of the unnecessary suffering that we witness, and that we have to go beyond fair trade. Right, just paying living wages is not enough. And what I'm trying to say by that is that we needed to invest in the future generations. And in order to invest in the future generation, we need to invest in our women today. Yeah, and that's that Alaffia participate in maternal care. And when we try to invest in our future generation, you see everything that we do with education. So beyond fair trade, yes, we could pay a fair living wages, but really is ensuring that we also are taking an additional portion of the sales of those products to invest in those activities that will ultimately make our community self-sustaining, both here in the US and also in West Africa. And I think that's critical if truly we as humans, we said that we claim to be a moral being. And to be a moral being means that we need to take actions that have moral responsibility. And for that is to avoid excessive self-accumulations of wealth. I have a good life, and I think it only makes sense to invest more back into the community for the greater good of the community.
Yeah. And I know that you have also had just a really tangible impact on so many lives. You have directly funded over 6,500 births. Talk about that.
Yeah, well, that's only the beginning. In Togo today, one in 5 children that are born are funded from the sales of Alaffia product. 1 in 5.
1 in 5 born in Togo today.
1 in 5, yeah.
Amazing.
And some of those are quite personal, right? Growing up, I lost one sister after she gave birth, had an infection and died. And also as a child, I was the boy who I'll be told to go bring hot water in a bucket when a woman is undergone FGM or genital mutilation practices. So when you see those things as a kid, those stays with you. And so it only yes, it is true. The Alaffia is going against fair trade. It's true that we fund maternal care, but they're very, very personal to me. We don't do those things for just because we need to, because I witness why it's important to do them, to continue to put money into maternal care, and we're doing that here in the U.S. as well.
Yeah,
for our girls' line, 5% go to help mothers here to have safe birth. I think it's just the right thing to do, but it really become a personal thing that I feel I must do. And similarly, when we look into education now, we have over 10,000 bicycles that we have provided mostly for girls to be able to go to school. See, in where I grew up, we have some 40% of girls that would drop out by the time they reach a secondary school. And when they have a bicycle, we end up having over 90% retention, just simply by having bicycles. And I think, again, I was that kid that would be walking 5 or 10 miles to school. And so, when I was a young boy, I would dream, Molly, if one day I can have a bicycle. It literally is almost like equivalent. I don't care about private jet, but just imagine if you can imagine where you can have your own private jet. So to have a bicycle was a big deal as, grew up in Togo. So, but it's not just to have bicycles because you need to get somewhere, because the long time that takes to get to school and the sun and so on and so forth. So by having a bicycle, it reduces the amount of time that you have to spend on the road, because you have responsibilities. You have to work at home. We have to wash dishes. We have to do so much at home, especially for young girls. So to me, I felt, okay, if we can provide bicycles and also help in America, because a lot of bicycles that we collect in America will end up in landfill, and we know that's not good for our earth. So we can put those to use by Alaffia pay for the distribution and the shipping and so on and so forth. And then at the same time, we can have more girls going to school and they have better economic future. It's just that it makes a common sense. And, similar thing goes into our eyeglass distributions. So they can be able to see the blackboard when they're learning. And same with our tree planting. We're getting close to 100,000 trees to be planted. And that too is about food security. We can't talk about living the peaceful world if people can't have food. So planting trees prevents erosion. So you see sometimes it feels that why Alaffia is spread, why we're doing all of these things. And I think that it really indicates what we stand for. Because if Alaffia was created in terms of some of those are marketing reasons, then you wouldn't be doing so much. And it goes back to that beyond fair trade. But most importantly, if truly exists to impact humankind, then you need to touch all aspects of humanity. So education, maternal care, all of those are all part, and our environment, they're all part of the ecosystem that we live in. And again, for the future, and I feel that it is important that we do invest in all those drivers of the society, but even more importantly, but to do them in a very long period of the time. That is when we can measure the cumulative impact, because it's these 18 years now
Yeah.
And stay consistently for 18 years and investing in our communities, I think is the right thing to do. And I have to say, for me, is what keeps me going every day. Look, I got here from West Africa yesterday, and I'm here talking to you, and I'm happy.
Yeah. Well, OlowoNdjo, let me just say this, because as you were talking, I just, it really, I don't know that I even have the words for it, but I think the first thing I want to say is thank you. And the reason I say that is because, you know, especially topics like women's maternal health, both here in the States and also in underserved countries, is a huge issue. And it's an issue that is not talked about enough. And female genital mutilation is another topic that is not talked about enough, and the horrors of it. And there are so many things, you know, especially advocating for the education of young girls, and how often, you know, even just the lack of access to, you know, transportation is huge. The lack of access to, you know, feminine hygiene products affects girls' education. And so often, more often than not, the people advocating for those things are women. And so to see a man advocating for those things is really powerful. And so I want to say thank you, because it's, you know, I feel like I've talked to so many women about this, and over the years, especially some of my my dear friends in Kenya, who they talk about, sometimes we feel that they've shared with me, they're like, sometimes I feel like I'm just beating a dead horse, because nobody is, we're just saying the same things over and over again, and men aren't listening, and men are the decision makers so often. And so to see a man standing up and saying, this is an issue that is important to us, and we want to be a part of the solution and be a part of the change, is so huge. So thank you. Thank you for that.
No, thank you. And I think I owe that to my mother and sisters. They don't give me any choice. Otherwise. I think they programmed me to I was programmed a long time ago. It's funny, Molly. Well, maybe it's not funny. So, you know, growing up, my all the older sisters came first, right? They were older. So essentially, they really is my sisters that raised me. And what they would do, my mother has 3 boys. Yeah. So all the boys ate in one pot, and all the older sisters eat in one pot. So, and then we cook, you know, you saw how it is in Kenya. Togo is similar. And when they're in the kitchen, right, doing the cooking, they will ask you, well, can you go get some water from the well? If you said no, what they would do is they would leave your food on the stove cooking, burning. Right? And when you come back from the farm, you're hungry. Yeah. And I learned very quickly, just do what the woman tell you, and then you can get some food. Everything's gonna be all right.
All right. I'm going to do that trick for my kids when they're not listening. And I keep telling them when they get home from school, and I'm like, all right, it's time to go collect the eggs. And sometimes I have to ask them like 8 times to go out and do their chores. And I'm like, now I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to start burning their food.
They'll burn their food. They will go get those eggs very, very quickly. No, but you know, I think, again, those are the things that is so important that we look. It is not an issue of women's only. This is about humanity. These impact all our communities. So if we are not doing right by our sisters and mothers, then who we can do right by?
Man. Oh, that's so powerful. Yeah, I think about, you remind me of my dad a little bit, because my dad was one of 5, and he had 4 sisters. So he was the oldest, but he talks about all the time about how when he's like, when you're in a house with a mom and 4 sisters, like, yeah, I mean, and like his dad was serving in World War II when he was born, and so like that generation, especially, of just like, he was the only guy, and he's like, oh, I learned real quick how to treat a woman.
Yes, you do. And you never finish learning. I mean, I by no means that I am a saint or a perfect person, but I think it is just continuing to learn. Even in our adult life, we have to continue to learn, and we have to continue to learn how to listen.
Yeah. What has been the biggest challenge in building Alaffia, and obviously you create incredible products. You have this incredible just purpose-filled model. What has been the biggest challenge for you in building this business?
I think it depends on the day.
Yeah, that's true. You could ask any entrepreneur that, they'll say that.
we have the biggest challenges every day. This morning, a friend of mine from Los Angeles was trying to get on the phone with me. I texted and said, I got some fires to put out first before I can get on the phone. So I think there's a continuous challenges.
Yeah.
Also, but really, I do think not just so much of the challenges, but the incredible difficulties, and I don't think there's one, right? We just imagine these. For the past 18 years, we all know that issues of widespread corruption is quite seen throughout our countries in many parts of Africa. And to be claiming to be ethical supply chain, that's extreme amount of challenge to maintain that within your own team and the broader team that we work with. And not just in Togo, we work in several countries in West Africa. So you have to continue to stay on top of that. And it's not easy, to be honest with you, to work with African government. It just simply isn't.
Yeah.
But I think, the other part for me is really about, instead of challenges, really the personal sacrifices, right? When my girls were little, most of the time I can say I was not there. I may be there, but I'm on the phone with a retailer. Or if I'm not on the phone with a retailer, I'm traveling, to go. Because Alaffia is not where you have a marketing budget. And you have to literally be there to talk, as we're talking right now, about what matters. So I think those is extreme amount of sacrifices. But when we bring it back, really, to today, because of Alaffia, I'm able to pay for those kids to be going to college today. Something that my parents weren't able to do that. So yes, there's the challenges and sacrifices were extreme, but also I'm able to provide for them in the ways that it doesn't justify by any means, but it is. I think I try to always acknowledge the difficulties of life and also the positive part of life.
Yeah, absolutely. Entrepreneurship is a roller coaster at all times. And some days you don't know what the challenge is going to be. And then, of course, in the current state of things, you've got everything from supply chain issues to goodness. It just, it's never ending.
No, it cannot end. And that's why I think is really important to understand the purpose and why we do what we do. When I talk to youngsters, I tell them that, you can start your own enterprise, but you have to look deep in your heart and your soul and know what you can do it for. Because if you simply want to do it for money, how you can overcome the challenges? You give up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk real quick about some of the products that you have and what, for people that maybe aren't familiar with Alaffia and haven't fallen in love with it like I have, but talk about kind of what your, the products that you offer now and like what's on the horizon for you as you continue to grow.
You mean aside from gray hairs? I don't know. Maybe you can see all my gray hairs, but I'm okay with them. No, Molly, just like you noted, about 60% of what Alaffia makes are bath product, right? We'll talk about soaps, body washes, shampoos, face washes, and bubble bath, and so on and so forth. But we also make creams for moisturizing the skin. We have north of 150 different SKUs, different products. And within those, we have very set and very specific product. If you look within our beautiful curls, for instance, it's really focused on the curly hair. And if you look at our body washes, it's for everybody. I really, it is true within the Alaffia portfolio, we create and do innovation for what the people need. But at the end of the day, is ensuring that we're meeting the need of the variety of people within our community. As to what is on the horizon, first and foremost, I think it's Alaffia to remain consistent and continue to invest in the community as we have done for the past 18 years. I don't think we should ever shift from that because that's how we will be able to encourage others to adopt our model, because now we can see that can reduce poverty. We can see that can bring about gender equality. And we can also see that can helps communities across America for healthier alternatives. But I do think that what you can be seeing as time comes is more of different countries where Alaffia product are available. This quarter, we're going to launch Alaffia in South Africa. And,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and Q3, Q4, Ghana and Nigeria and next. And also in Q2, we're going to be going to Germany and the UK. I think it is quite an exciting year for us. We have a very robust innovation roadmap for the next 5 years. We think regardless of the climate where we are in the world today, we have to continue to innovate and service the communities around the world.
That is awesome. I'm so excited to see that and to see that growth and to see just more and more people around the world getting to know you and this incredible brand and becoming a part of it and all of that. Well, I am so excited about it. Thank you for being here. Before we finish up, it's the part of the show where we transition and just ask some fun get to know you questions. So,
should I have a shot or something?
Oh, no, don't be scared. Don't be scared. It's so funny. Everyone's always scared. And I'm like, what do you think I'm going to ask?
I don't know.
It's the fear of the unknown. I know, yeah. But I saw this video the other day that was like the whole message of it was, how it's the fear of the unknown that keeps us from moving forward. And it was a guy who was blindfolded and he was told to stick his hand in a box and touch what was inside the box. And he was, flipping out. Yeah, he just is.
I think I would too.
He is flipping out. But the video shows that it's a teddy bear. Like it's a teddy bear inside the box, but he is terrified. And like, cause he grazed it and he feels the fur and he's like, and he's screaming. And it's this idea of just like fear getting in the way of moving forward and how, really it was just a teddy bear. Like it wasn't anything that was going to actually be harmful or
no. That's what stress goes around you. Right?
I know. Totally.
I have to trust you. Molly, I trust you.
You trust me. All right. Yeah. We're good. All right. So inevitably, when there is a movie made about your life, who do you want to play you in the movie? What actor?
You mean I can't play myself?
See, I like it. You're like, I want to play myself. I want to be in my own movie. All right. Okay. Then I'll ask a different question because you're obviously going to be cast as yourself. Who's going to play your mom? Who would you have play your mom?
I would have I have a name, and she has passed away. But if it were to find somebody similar to her today, and the reason I say that is because it's a person that never smiled but has so much love, right? And I think that having her, but if we were to talk about in the current time, it would be somebody. So in Togo we do a lot of theater in Togo. That's how you keep yourself busy in religion, right? And there's a woman in Lomé today. Lomé is the capital of Togo, and I think that she would do a good job playing my mother. And her name is Salifa, so I would think she'd be the one.
I love it. Yeah, and I love that you have that picture in your mind. I love it. Okay, question number 2 is what is currently on your most played playlist on Spotify, Pandora, wherever you listen to music? What's currently on your most played playlist?
I think what the top that I have right now is Bob Marley.
Oh yes,
yes. That's and the second one that comes up is the Davido, all the Afro beats.
Yeah,
that's Africa right now.
I love it. That's awesome. Especially when you're on like long plane trips back and forth, because Washington to West Africa is not a short travel.
No.
It is not short.
No.
I've done the 16-hour JFK to Nairobi flight, and that is, It is rough. When you're on those long flights, like what's your go-to? Are you, do you read books? Do you listen to books? Do you podcasts, music? Do you just sleep, watch movies?
No, I don't sleep. So I like wine. So I make sure I have plenty of wine. I'm not recommending that people have plenty of wine. I'm saying maybe.
I like it. I'm here for it. I like your style.
and then I write. I really do. You see, I have these. I always bring my notebook and my red pen with me, and because those times are times that I feel like I get to reflect. Right, I like to reflect on the day before. I like to reflect on the whole year. I like to reflect on my whole life, and also part of my job is to think ahead for the organization.
Yeah.
Right? So essentially, what is a strategy? How we can continue to remain relevant, stay ahead. So I drink wine and I write.
I like it. You know, let's be honest. If you're on a 16-hour flight, and you're drinking wine, there's a lot of reflecting happening. Okay.
Yeah.
One time, all right, I'm going to tell this I'm going to go on a quick digression. On my it was actually January of 2020, right before the world blew up. I was on a flight from JFK to Nairobi, and it was the 16-hour. It's like 16 and a half hours. It is rough. It is so long. Yeah. And I couldn't sleep. I was, on the aisle and I just couldn't get comfortable. So at one point during the flight, I decided I'm going to walk around. And I go and I stand in the back and I'm talking with some of the flight attendants who are just lovely and beautiful. Yes. And there was this young gentleman who had very clearly been drinking wine the entire flight.
It wasn't me, though.
It was not you. It was not you. It was, he had many, many, many glasses of wine on this flight. And it ended in a 10-minute conversation. It ended with him proposing to me. And I was like, I'm married, but thank you. It's really great to meet you. I'm going to go back and sit down. And then the rest of the flight, he kept coming up to my seat and being calling me his fiance. And I was just like, I regret going on that walk to the back of the plane. Because then we still had 9 more hours to go. We'd been on this flight for so long. And I was like, I couldn't escape. You're just on this flight forever. It was.
Funny that you said that. Just when I was in Ghana, we were having a meeting in this cafe, and this lady showed up. And long story short, she actually was not married and was proposed in an airplane by a stranger and ended up marrying the person.
Oh, that's amazing! Oh, that's amazing.
Bit to drink, so
yeah, it was.
Yeah, I'm glad that you were married because.
I was I'm taken, sir. It was I'm very flattered that you are extremely intoxicated and proposing to a complete stranger on a flight. The flight attendants in the back are howling with laughter. They were just could not stop laughing. Anyway. Okay. So that was my quick digression. Okay.
Well, I'm glad you made it, Molly. I'm glad you made it.
Oh yeah. It was fantastic. I made it. It was safe. We're good. My husband thought it was really funny. So, okay. So the Winter Olympics, believe it or not, are coming up soon. I'm a big fan of the Olympics. If you could win a medal for any sport, real or fake, what would you win a medal in?
I would say for cycling because I like to cycle.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I like to. I do long distance cycling.
It's your own little private jet on wheels.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So
the world.
I'm going to see you in the Togo. You're representing Togo in the Olympics in cycling. You're going to win the gold
every day. But I think I'll get medal for cycling for Togo.
I love it. I love it. It's fantastic. Okay, OlowoNdjo, this is my last question that I ask all my guests, and that is, what does it mean to you to run a business with purpose?
What it means to me is that it means I have a clear duty, really. It's a duty. And a duty means that you're responsible for people. And people are communities. And the purpose, it gives me a reason to be. And we all need reason to be. It doesn't matter what we're believing in. We have to understand why we're here on the earth. And because what we do professionally takes a great majority of our time. And to do of purpose, it helps me to understand why I'm here. And at the end of the day, I'm here to serve.
I love that. OlowoNdjo, this has been just such a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the work you're doing. And like I said, you have a huge fan over here in Central North Carolina. And I just thank you so much for taking time out of what I know is a busy schedule to talk with me.
No, Molly, I cannot thank you enough, your family and your community as well. And because, as I noted earlier, we all have to do different things toward the goodness of humanity. And the fact that you continue to broadcast, really, the goodness is a path to bring all of us together. And I just want to also just give you a hug and give you the courage. I know it's not easy, so purpose is not easy, and you're doing it, and I'm grateful that you're doing it, and thank your family for supporting you.
Thank you so much. Friend, I would love to know what you loved about this episode or something that you learned. Find me on social media. I'm at Still Being Molly or at Business with Purpose Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. And don't forget to use that hashtag Business with Purpose Podcast when you're sharing the show with a friend. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. If you are a first-time listener of the show, welcome. Be sure to check out the archives for past shows featuring so many incredible entrepreneurs, business owners, community leaders who are changing the world. If you are a regular listener of the show, thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for tuning in and week out. Be sure to head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Radio Public, Overcast, Stitcher, basically wherever you get your podcasts. Click that subscribe or follow button. To click that button means you will never miss a new episode of the show. And while you're there, would you take a moment to just leave a review? Would you take a moment to maybe share one of your favorite episodes with a friend? Leaving a review, sharing the show with a friend. It is totally free for you, and it is the biggest help for me in the entire world. You have no idea how much I appreciate it. It just also helps me to know what you're liking and how the show is impacting you. As always, this show is produced by the incredible team at Third Wheel Media. Thank you so much for listening. Now go do something good with purpose, on purpose.